A federal appeals court rules the National Security Agency's controversial collection of millions of Americans' phone records is not authorized by the Patriot Act, as the Bush and Obama administrations have long maintained. The court's 97-page decision is the most significant legal ruling on this surveillance program. Joining us now to break down what all of this means is WSJ's Damian Paletta. Damian, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
So, Damian, the NSA has long used the Patriot Act to justify the collection of Americans' phone records into a database as it searches for possible terrorism suspects. So what did the court ruling say about this specifically?
It's really interesting, and what's almost ironic about this is that this provision of the Patriot Act expires in 3 weeks, but the court said that the government's interpretation of the Patriot Act that allowed it to collect the phone records and possibly email records of millions of Americans is not the true intent of the law as Congress passed it initially in 2001. In other words, the law does not say that the NSA can sweep up all this data. The NSA has interpreted the law to say that, and we have an appeals court saying, you know, Congress did not intend you to do that. You should not be doing that. And so now this whole thing is up in the air with only a few weeks to go before Congress must reauthorize that. If Congress doesn't act, then the program essentially ends on its own.
So how do you think this ruling will affect all of this?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, we've already had, a lot of people who were critics of the program, from the most liberal members of Congress to the most conservative, such as Rand Paul, the senator from Kentucky who's running for president. They've already said this validates their view this program is illegal and should be ended, or should be completely overhauled. But just a few minutes ago, we had Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Richard Burr from North Carolina, go to the Hill and insist that this program be extended because they argue it has helped protect the country from terrorist attacks. They believe that data that's collected through this program helps national security and intelligence officials detect and stop terrorist attacks. So you have a real fight here that's going to play out very quickly about privacy versus national security. Neither side seems to have the upper hand in terms of able to push something through Congress quickly in the next few weeks. So we're really going to see this come down to the wire. And both sides are going to say that a lot is at stake.
Well, Damian, while this fight continues in Congress, what does all of this mean for Edward Snowden, whose leaks triggered the investigation into the extent of the data collection and brought all of this to the attention of civil liberties groups? I mean, if this court's ruling stands, then will Snowden officially be considered a patriot?
That's a great question, and it's something that has occurred to me. I don't think we've really reported that out at this point. But the judges in their ruling say essentially that if it were not for Edward Snowden, none of this information would have come to light. And this case probably would never have gotten to this level. So now you have an appeals court essentially siding with Edward Snowden, the former NSA contractor who is wanted by the U.S. government, essentially siding with him, saying that, yes, this program that he exposed from the NSA should not be going on, should not exist. So it could affect how Snowden is viewed, especially if this case holds up in the future. It's unclear if the Supreme Court's going to get involved, because if Congress makes some changes to it quickly or lets the whole thing fall apart, it'll be a moot point. But it definitely could affect Snowden's legacy and potentially even his legal situation in the United States.
All right, Damian Paletta, thank you so much for all that.